Constraints are one of the things that sets Figma apart the most. They are super, super useful and help you build apps that actually understand how rules work on mobile devices. So first things first, let's create a frame. I hit F on the keyboard, that's the frame tool. I can hit iPhone 7, that's a good default. Frames are stackable, so you can nest them inside each other. So let's build one for a standard nav bar, 64 points tall. Let's make it red just so it stands out very clearly. And now we're going to set constraints on this to its parent. So I'm going to name this nav bar quick. And then over here on the right side, you can see the constraints. Left means that it will respect its left offset. Right will maintain its right offset. Right and left will stretch to maintain both offsets. Center will float in the center. It'll respect the very center of the parent. And then scale will modify by percentage. So right and left is pixels and scale is percentage. So let's set this to right and left. Scale and right and left would be effectively the same at this point. And let's say top, so it'll always stick to the top of this iPhone 7 board. So if I do that, that's fine. If I resize from the top, it'll stick to the top. If I go side to side, it respects that and goes full width. Let's add one more element in here. Let's say that's the status bar. So let's make that 20 pixels tall. And again, we're going to constrain it to its parent. So right and left and top, which is where it should stay. We're not actually going to draw all the icons and stuff that go in there because that would take forever, but it's going to stay where you put it, which is pretty nice. Let's make that a slightly nicer color. Use the eyedropper here and then just make it a slight offset color. Let's add one more frame down here at the bottom, and that's going to be our tab bar. Let's color that quickly. And so now you can see that this is going to stay at the bottom, and it will stick to the left and the right. So really easy to work with. Now, one of the cool things about Figma, I'm just going to change that color to a just to a gray. You have layout grids. You can constrain to these layout grids. So say I have 5 tabs that I want to put in here. I can make the count 5, turn off the gutter, and now I have 5 equal components. You can see, like, once I remove the gutter, it just gives you a line in between the segments. I can add in a few objects here, so let's make these 25 by 25, which is a decent icon size for this component. And I'm just nudging things around here. That's probably good. Same there. Now let's take these two, slide them over here. And now I'm going to constrain each of these to center. And then let's say top, because there's going to be text down below. That should be constrained differently. So now we have 5 individual tab icons that are centered on their 5th of the tab bar rather than the center of the tab bar overall. Super convenient trick. Saves you a ton of time. So now one of the other components you see most often in iOS is a table cell. So let's create a table cell. I'm just going to create a rectangle here quick, and let's make that 44 points high, and we'll group it. So I'm going to hit Command G. And so now there's a group up here, and you can convert any group to a frame. So now that the frame is that size, I'm just going to bring this up here so it's a 1 pixel line at the top, just a nice little hairline. Oh, it kind of jumped out, but now it's back in. So now I have a white background. I'm going to change the iPhone 7 background to be more of a wash color, kind of like iOS has by default, and then give this a white background color. And so now I have the basics of a table cell. I'm going to add another line just like this. And I'm going to slide it off the side. I'm just nudging again. Let's bring it into 44. So now that's lined up. So I'm going to take this bottom border that's a partial border is because there's going to be another table cell right below it. I'm going to constrain this to the right and left and to the bottom. And I'm going to constrain this to the right and left and to the top. So now that cell will always be that way. So if I duplicate this now, I just hit Command D, drag it down. Pretty close. I'm going to remove this top piece because I don't need that anymore. And now I have a second table cell. Let's do this one more time. And now I'm going to drag this border back over to the left. And now I have 3 table cells. So now I can add some placeholders for some icons. Let's Let's put that right there in the middle. I'm going to just copy that, select this, paste it on top, select this, paste on top. It actually matches the relations to the parent of this original instance. So it makes it really easy to maintain. So now let's add some placeholder text. I'm going to select the text tool. I can hit T on my keyboard. I'm going to drag it down like that. I want it to be 44 pixels tall, the exact same height as the table cell. I'm going to set it to, well, let's put some text in here quick. And then I'm going to set it to center. So it's one of the things that Figma can do that a lot of others can't is they can vertically center text and vertically align it. Let's make that 32 pixels from that edge. I want to make sure that that stays attached to the right and left and the top and bottom, so it is always the same size in relation to its parent. Add those in. So now I need to take each of these groups and I'm going to constrain these right and left and to the top. So those will always stay at the top. So now my table cells stay where they should be no matter what size I have. So if I select this and change it to an iPhone 7 Plus, it expands. If I change it to an iPhone SE, it contracts. If I change it to, say, an iPad Pro, it can still handle it. It's not a great look for an iPad Pro, but it still respects your rules. So I'm going to bring it back to an iPhone 7 size, and let's say I want to add some carrots on this side, a little arrow pointing to the right to indicate there's something more there. This isn't a great size of one, so let's bring that down a little bit. Just using a quick little vector network, and let's make this 2 pixels thick, and let's make it a lighter color. Let's actually bring that down a little bit more. And let's center this middle one on a pixel. Let's bring that down. Let's bring that down. Now we've got a pretty decent looking carrot. So we want that to stay centered and to the right. So now it's going to stay vertically centered and it'll stick to the right side. So I'm going to copy that, paste that into these ones. So again, now if I shift things around, it stays where it says it will. So you can start to build out a pretty well fleshed out UI one piece at a time and keeping them where they should be regardless of the screen size. Because as screen sizes change, it becomes more important that things flow with it. Anyway, that's some basics around constraints. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just come down here to the feedback in the lower right-hand corner, and we are happy to answer those questions as fast as we can. Thank you.